Welcome, ambitious professionals. Think of me as your high-performance career coach today, and welcome to this Masterclass Explainer. Today, we're going to upgrade your cognitive toolkit and reclaim an incredibly powerful ability that, frankly, you might not even realize you've lost. We are talking about reading stamina. It is literally the ultimate executive superpower. So let's dive right into this.
I want you to answer this honestly. When was the very last time you sat down and read for an entire hour without checking a notification, without letting your mind completely wander off or feeling your eyes glaze over? If you've been building up a massive pile of half-read books on your nightstand, I need you to know something right out of the gate. This is a symptom of our modern attention crisis. It is not a lack of intelligence, and it's certainly not a lack of drive on your part. Your cognitive endurance has simply degraded because of the highly distracting environment we live in. But, just like physical endurance, the good news is we can absolutely rebuild it.
So here is our strategic roadmap for today. We're going to diagnose the problem by looking at the speed reading trap. Then we'll dive into the neuroscience of deep reading. After that, we'll establish the massive career ROI of stamina, tackle the digital versus print dilemma, and finally, I'll give you your daily stamina training plan.
Section 1. The speed reading trap. The cognitive illusion.
Okay, before we even talk about increasing your processing speed, we need a bit of a reality check. According to recent data, the average adult's reading stamina used to be around 45 to 60 minutes a generation ago. Today, that number has plummeted down to just 10 to 12 minutes. Yep, 10 to 12 minutes before you feel the overwhelming urge to take a break. That is a drastic decline in our baseline ability to sustain attention.
And you know, this drastically low baseline is exactly why traditional speed reading hacks are such a cognitive trap. Speed reading actually relies on shallow processing and much weaker neural pathways. Sure, you're scanning fast, but you're retaining almost nothing. Deep reading, on the other hand, is your actual superpower. It forces critical analysis, drives your vocabulary expansion, and creates really complex neural integration. Look, if you want to process complex professional information faster while actually understanding it, you don't need a skimming hack. You just need to learn how to sustain deep reading for longer stretches.
Moving right along, Section 2, the neuroscience of deep reading, inside your brain.
So the absolutely crucial thing to understand here is your working memory. You can think of it just like the RAM in a computer. When you're reading, your working memory holds the sentence you're currently on while seamlessly connecting it to the concepts you read a few paragraphs ago. But here's the catch. This mental RAM is limited. Research shows it typically peaks at about 25 to 35 minutes before it starts depleting. So listen, when you hit a mental wall at that 30-minute mark, it is not a failure of your willpower. It's simply depleted working memory. And just like your physical capacity at the gym, this mental RAM can be trained and expanded.
Reading takes a sheer physical and neural toll on your body. It is anything but passive. To read deeply, your brain actually has to actively suppress what's called the default mode network. That's the stubborn part of your brain that's desperately begging you to daydream about your weekend plans. Meanwhile, your eyes are performing these tiny, rapid movements called saccades 3 to 4 times a second. You're constantly decoding, memorizing, and integrating highly complex information, all while your brain demands sustained dopamine just to fight off mental fatigue. It's basically the ultimate cognitive CrossFit workout.
Let's get into Section 3, the ROI of reading stamina, returns on investment.
This right here is what we call the learning multiplier effect. Reading for 90 minutes straight doesn't just give you more time than a 25-minute session, it gives you exponentially deeper knowledge. The information you're processing in minute 80 is connecting with minute 10 in ways that fragmented start and stop reading simply cannot achieve. Think about this in the corporate world. If you can process technical documents, industry reports, and complex books 3 to 4 times faster and deeper than your peers, you're taking a 3-year professional learning curve and turning it into a 6-month competitive advantage. That's massive. But the ROI goes way beyond just your career and your paycheck. There was an extensive study out of Yale University that found deep reading literally impacts your lifespan. The cognitive reserve you build by sustaining concentration actually acts as a buffer against cognitive decline. To put that into perspective, people who read for over 3.5 hours a week saw a 23% reduction in mortality risk. They extended their mean survival by nearly 2 years compared to non-readers. So this isn't just about getting a promotion, it is literally about protecting your brain and extending your life.
Section 4. Mastering digital versus print. Mediums matter.
We have to talk about how the medium you choose fundamentally changes your brain's behavior. Paper reading provides spatial and tactile anchors. You actually remember where a fact was physically located, like, oh, that was at the bottom of the left page. This significantly lowers your cognitive load.
Digital reading completely removes those physical cues because you're continuously scrolling. Combine that endless scrolling with the high cognitive load of incoming notifications, and it forces this shallow skimming behavior. In fact, studies show 90% of students admit to multitasking while reading digitally, and that severely limits comprehension.
But look, I get it. As executives and busy professionals, screen time is just an unavoidable reality. We can't entirely abandon digital text. So here are your actionable, real-world tactics to salvage your digital reading. First, be ruthless about blocking distractions. Activate Reader View on your browser to kill those flashing ads. Second, combat that passive scrolling by using active digital annotation. Highlight things, leave digital sticky notes for yourself. Third, implement a stop and jot routine. Pause after every major section and summarize it, either mentally or in your notes. And finally, protect your visual endurance. Increase the font size and use warm sepia tones. That's going to drastically reduce the eye strain that causes physical fatigue.
Finally, Section 5, your stamina training plan. Rebuild your endurance.
Okay, everything starts with a pre-reading ritual. Think about it. You wouldn't walk into a gym and immediately try to deadlift your absolute maximum weight, right? You warm up first. This 5-minute system powerfully signals to your brain that it is time to enter deep focus mode. Optimize your seating and lighting. Take a few deep breaths to transition mentally. Leave your phone in a completely different room, no exceptions. And then, only then, do you begin reading. This kind of environmental conditioning is absolutely non-negotiable for high performers.
Once you begin, you're going to follow a progressive overload schedule. You have to start by finding your honest baseline. How long can you currently read before your mind wanders off? For most of us, it's about 15 to 20 minutes. Spend weeks 1 and 2 just building consistency at that baseline. Then slowly add exactly 5 minutes every couple of weeks. You'll slowly improve your attentional control, then your visual endurance, then your comprehension, until you eventually hit that incredible 60-plus minute deep flow state. If you rush this process and try to jump straight to an hour on day 1, your unconditioned neural pathways will absolutely burn out. Patient, progressive overload is the key here. Now, between these highly focused blocks, you have to manage your eye strain and your working memory. And we do that using the Pomodoro Plus method. Here is the golden rule you need to remember. Breaks are for strategic attention restoration, not for checking your phone. A 5-minute break spent scrolling through social media completely drains your directed attention. Instead, try using the 20-20-20 rule. Look 20 feet away for 20 seconds, do some light stretching, just gaze out a window for a bit. Let your involuntary attention reset your mental RAM before you dive into your next heavy cognitive lift.
I want to wrap up this explainer with an incredibly powerful quote from neuroscientist Marianne Wolf. She writes, "The reading brain reflects the medium. We must ensure that what we cherish most about reading, the experience of reading deeply, is passed on." You really don't need another shortcut. You don't need a fancy new AI summary app. You just need to reclaim the biological superpower that your brain is already built for. Those half-read books on your nightstand, they are waiting for you. So as your coach today, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to ditch the shortcuts and finally build your true cognitive muscle? Get out there, find your baseline, and start your training today.